I've got a question for you, and I promise it's important. Is Bulkhead from the hit cartoon series Transformers Animated fat or buff? I'll give you 1 second to answer. Got your bets in? Okay, cool, because I don't know the answer either. I need you to understand that I got that Transformers animated autism, and it leads me to the strangest places. Bulkhead is my favorite of the main 5 Autobots in the show, and naturally, that leads to me thinking about him way too much. I've always liked Bulkhead and his stupid underbite. He's just a really sweet guy whose heart is always in the right place, and I think it's fun that they don't apply a lot of the typical big guy tropes to him. He's very cute in both looks and personality, just like the Vortigons. I also think Bulkhead is probably the most underdeveloped of the main 5 Autobots, but I don't care. He's my big sweetheart. I would die for him. In a previous life, I may have actually done so. I have proof of this. I can live forever. They call me Judge Holden because I will never die. With that being said, something's always bothered me about Bulkhead. This manifested itself to me fairly recently when I saw a piece of Bulkhead fan art where he was drawn 3mm slimmer than usual. Bulkhead's meant to be wide and you're drawing him thin. You can't do that. Seeing that fan art of a slightly thinner Bulkhead made me realize I don't know if Bulkhead is meant to be a fat guy or a really beefy dude, and it's starting to drive me nuts. You'd think, well, how hard can it be to determine his build? Why don't you just look at his design? Well, why don't you look at it? It's like if a build could be non-binary. You could make arguments for either answer and you would be stuck at an impasse. Well, maybe he's like one of those bodybuilders who's kind of like really strong but has a lot of body fat. I asked Twitter, and that was the overwhelming consensus, with fat coming in second place. I could totally see that, but the problem is, you watch the show and his design does not remain consistent, like ever. Sometimes he's drawn practically spherical, other times he's just kind of wide. Occasionally he's drawn like a lanky freak. These 3 examples are from the same damn episode, and the absolute size of this man on his character sheet doesn't match any of them. I have both the Voyager and Leader class Bulkheads right here on my kitchen table, so let's take a look at them real quick. Now, these aren't the most accurate representations of the character, and the Voyager isn't the best, but I still like him. The Voyager's cute because he gets to hide his head and his little back kibble like a fucked up turtle. Now, ignore the mysterious white stains on the Leader class and focus on the absolute size of these lads. To me, neither of these guys are particularly, like, strongman-y. They both look like you'd spot them striding out of the Heart Attack grill. I think the Leader's weird because it's quite chonky on the Z-axis, but not so much on the X-axis. Like, he looks a little buff from the front, but rotund from the side. Whereas the Voyager looks round from all angles.
Sorry, my bad. Time for the big gun. Sorry.
So let's get into intent here. Was Bulkhead intended to be a chunky boy or a swole bitch? The issue here is that there's a lot of evidence pointing in either direction in both the writing and the behind the scenes of the show, but hopefully we can sort of deduce some kind of answer with what we have available to us. I think, just like the British Rec Commissioner on behalf of the British Board of Trade on April 15th, 1912, an easy place to begin our investigation would be a look into how the Bulkhead was designed. To start off, Derek J. Wyatt listed an 80s cartoon called The Mighty Orbots as one of his biggest influences on the character designs in animated, even down to the opening titles both being very similar. In particular, the design of Bulkhead was heavily influenced by a character from this obscure cartoon called Crunch. I actually did check out The Mighty Orbots for this video, just to get a feel of what Derek was going for, and I gotta say, Derek, I love ya, but this shit is ass. The animation is quite fluid and pretty in places, and I can totally see the influence on animated, but I would not recommend this cartoon to anybody above the age of like 10. I know I shouldn't be too nasty to a cartoon meant for actual babies from the 80s, but I watched this for research purposes and I came out at the other end a different man, because one of the robots has human toes and it really scared me. He's really strutting around with his hogs out in every damn episode, and once you notice he has giant scary human feet that are drawn in weirdly high fidelity, you can't unsee it. Why didn't animated Optimus have mighty grippers from the Mighty Orbots, Derek? Anyway, Crunch from Mighty Orbots is a generic fat archetype who just eats and is stupid, and that's it. He's a far cry from the Bulkhead we know and love, but visually, we know he's the inspiration for the Green Boy. So did Derek originally envision Bulkhead as being a fat guy when he was hired for the show? Well, in the intro for both Mighty Orbots and animated, both Crunch and Bulkhead are doing the same thing. They're munching on something. Think of the intro to Transformers Animated as a runway. Everybody's doing little drag race poses to convey their characters to kids without their tiny little brains even realizing they're being fed information. I mean, it worked on me. Bumblebee's speeding around because he's fast. Prowl does a little ninja thing because he's a weirdo. Optimus Prime has this pose to show he's like commanding and in power, kind of no nonsense. And Ratchet is like I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is meant to convey. He looks like he's just been shot in the ass by a fent needle. We get to Bulkhead and he's doing this. What does this tell us about his character? Everybody else is standing up, ready for the camera, ready for action, except for him. He sat down, not even looking at the camera because he's distracted by this barrel he's eating. If we are to take this literally, this tells us that Bulkhead is, to put it politely, a fat ass who cares more about food than fighting in a giant robot war. But the thing is, the information that this conveys to the audience is not accurate to how he acts in the show. He's not particularly gluttonous. Sure, he's got a snack sometimes, but it's not like it's one of his defining character traits. In the original series Bible for Transformers Animated, Bulkhead is described as a jock. At no point does it say he's fat or likes food or anything of the sort. So was the fat angle entirely the doing of Derek J. Wyatt and the artists of the show? That's what it's starting to seem like, but I got something else. In Season 1, Episode 5, Total Meltdown, Bulkhead gets his big ass stuck in this force field thing, and Prowl says,
"Bulkhead, move your oversized fender."
This line is pretty innocuous. I mean, they're always saying that Bulkhead's just a big guy without really specifying anything particularly concrete. But in the original script for this episode, please don't ask me where I got this from, we can see this line was altered during the final pass. What did Prowl say originally? I don't know, but guess what? I just lied, because I do know! This script is dated to the 17th of October 2007, but luckily, I have the revised storyboards from March 14th, 2007, which, if you're paying attention, is earlier than October 17th, which was the date of script, so this is before. Really do not ask me where I got these storyboards from, please. This storyboard uses an earlier draft of the script, and it has Prowl say, "Bulkhead, move your fat fender." This is the only instance in the whole show where anybody makes any kind of remark about Bulkhead's mysterious build, and it was cut from the final episode. I don't know a lot about how these sorts of things work, but surely fat would have had to have been in an approved draft of the script to get to the storyboard stage, right? Maybe they improvised the oversized line on the day. I've not got a Scooby-Doo. I thought Bulkhead being fat was a creative liberty the artists of the show took, but now that we've learned the writers called him fat too, do we now have a concrete answer? Was Bulkhead conceptualized as a beefcake, reinterpreted as a fat guy, and then changed back into a strongman early in the show's production? Was the original intention for Bulkhead to just be a fat guy lost at some point during the show's run? Or a better question, is this entirely a pre-production thing that never really manifested in the show itself? At what stage of production was the opening title sequence featuring this fat-looking Bulkhead made? Should I shut my trap until the melatonin kicks in? No, I'm fine.
Why is your belly so big? What's in there, bro?
They actually start drawing Bulkhead much more consistently as the show goes along. In Season 1, he's drawn round and his stomach is sticking out, but by Season 2, he's more pill-shaped and his middle is flat as hell. By Season 3, he's gone through an inspirational weight loss journey and the show has finally settled into a semi-consistent shape for him. Estrogen. This is Derek J. Wyatt's iconic original sketch for Bulkhead. It's a lot more exaggerated than his final design, but not a lot of people know about this one that shows the original designs for the whole main cast. I really like this one, it's fun to look at. So many of Derek's early drawings for Bulkhead have him as massively wide and round, so what changed? Well, he talked about it during a panel at TFCon 2009.
Surprisingly, he was even fatter and rounder. And then they kind of had me make his proportions more like a football player.
Like a football player? That kinda helps, but football players have all kinds of different builds depending on where they are on the field. I mean, he's certainly not built like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. Does Derek mean somebody like Damian Woody? Or William the Refrigerator Perry? Actually, Derek's pinned tweet since March 2017 has been a drawing of William Perry, so that would make a lot more sense. Okay, everyone, we're getting somewhere. Except we're not. The answer may seem deceptively simple, but listen to what Derek said again.
Surprisingly, he was even fatter.
Even fatter? Implying he's fat now? Am I overthinking this? I don't know. At this point, the question isn't even, is Bulkhead fat or buff? Now the question is, why is Bulkhead fat sometimes and buff other times? And also, is there a set in stone definitive answer to the original question, even if it isn't always conveyed in the toys or the cartoon? It really feels like the only way we're gonna get to the bottom of any of this is by asking somebody who actually worked on the damn show. I pestered Marty Eisenberg enough during my interrogation in the last video, so I think he's off the cards for a real answer. Obviously, Derek J. Wyatt is no longer with us, but we know from his Mighty Autobots inspiration what he was originally going for. I think I would have to ask somebody who, I don't know, worked on finalizing the designs for the show with Derek, but there's no way they'd be willing to take time out of their day to tell me something so stupid that only I care about. So could I get your name and your credentials, please?
Yes, my name's Eric Siebenaller. I'm a former designer at Hasbro. I was the lead designer on Transformers Animated, and during that time period, I was hands-on with the Cartoon Network team, from designing and writing and just planning everything out between the toy line and the animation so that we could create synergy between the two mediums.
There's been a lot of debate about Bulkhead. I'm hoping you have the definitive answer to this. Is Bulkhead fat or is Bulkhead buff?
Bulkhead is pleasantly thick. He's kind of in between being like strong and really like capable and powerful, and he's also a little overweight too. So it's kind of dancing that line.
You heard it here first, folks. Bulkhead is buff but a little overweight. He's no longer the scrunkly marshmallow like so many of you, me included, thought he was. It's cool that we have our answer now, but when I asked Eric what changed during pre-production and why, he gave me a little present. Hold on to your chrome domes, because this is gonna blow your mind and kill your husband, I guess. What you're staring at with your smelly, stinky eyes right now is a never-before-seen image of Derek J. Wyatt's original design for animated Bulkhead that Eric had stored on his hard drive for a moment just like this. It's beautiful, ain't it? Here's Eric talking a little more about this design.
Once we got into the room and started kind of collaborating a little bit more on the designs, that was when we felt like it would be a more natural pull to have Bulkhead be physically and visually powerful. Like, he can still be overweight. We like that idea, but we want him to look like it's functional mass. Simply just broadening the shoulders, it would visually like make him look like, oh, this dude is strong. He's like a farm boy from the Midwest. In my eyes, I think it made the design just more functional. The other half of it is how Bulkhead would have looked in vehicle mode, and it would have completely changed the physical structure of his vehicle mode. Whereas, like, he's more like a loaf of bread now, but if you just got rid of those shoulders, all of a sudden you're kind of a weird trapezoid almost.
Here is another unreleased image of Derek's next pass on Bulkhead, where he starts to look a lot more like his final design. It's a subtle change, but broadening the shoulders really gives him that strongman look. Thank you, Eric. I hope you're ready for the amount of hate you're gonna get for telling everybody that Bulkhead isn't a softie. Of course, just because Bulkhead isn't officially fat doesn't mean he can't be reinterpreted as such by all of you lovely people out there. Those sorts of creative reinterpretations are one of my favorite things about the Transformers community. When artists reimagine a character's background, personality, or in this case, body type, they're not erasing or discrediting the original, they're building on it. When fans depict Bulkhead as fat in fan art or fanfics or whatever, I don't think they're trying to override the original canon. They're engaging with Bulkhead through their own lens. The voice of the creator is like foundational because it gives us all the silly robots we like to make kiss each other in the first place. But once a piece of media is released into the world, it becomes part of a broader discussion where fans can bring their own perspectives into the mix. I mean, animated as a whole is a crazy reinterpretation that picks and chooses pieces of the source material and goes in a wildly different direction with it. Changing the body changes society, changing society changes the soul, changing the soul changes society, changing society changes it all. So if Eric's answer upset you, I wouldn't get too pressed about it. If you are peeved, then, I don't know, submit your complaint to my electronic mail and I will show them to Eric and reply to you with his reaction. Don't actually do this. I am afraid of upsetting Eric further. Just look how angry he is. He's so evil. Also, while we're all here, rest in peace Pope Francis, who died during the production of this video. I'm sure he would have loved to have learned what we saw today. Please, everybody, a moment of silence for the self-appointed biggest Bulkhead fan on the planet, Pope Francis. His attempt at turning Vatican City into the first ever Bulkhead state was an admirable one, albeit incredibly misguided since his papacy and everybody in Vatican City wanted him to instead turn it into the first ever Pharaoh state.